And I am officially back with the Ottoman Empire. This is the second season from Kings and Generals, and this one's gonna be all about Mehmed the Conqueror, which I'm really excited about because other than the taking of Constantinople and his later engagement with Vlad the Impaler, I don't know everything that Mehmed did in his career. I only know those two big events. So I'm really looking forward to seeing everything that he did. I mean, even Kings and Generals basically made this entire second season all about him. So that kind of is telling that he accomplished way more. And I'm really excited to learn. Man, it feels good to be back with the Ottomans. You know, I think in 2025, all the videos, all the series we went through, I think the Ottoman Empire one was actually my most popular. Like, in terms of like likes and like comments and engagements, it was like I think my most popular reaction series of 2025, which really shocked me. I hadn't had engagement like that since like Napoleon from Epic History back in 2024. So yeah, I didn't know the Ottomans were such a really hot topic among history buffs and historians who, you know, come around here. And yeah, even then, even when I wrapped it up, all 6 hours of the first season, I kept getting comments like, you gotta watch the individual parts. And I apologize that I didn't. For those of you who may not be aware, the way I operate on this channel is that I like binging a series really quick. You know, I kind of wait for all the parts to come out, and then I'll jump in and just kind of get it all done in one foul swoop. That's why I haven't like reacted to the Epic History China series as it was coming out, because I wanted to wait to be sure he was done before I jumped into it. And don't worry, I've already recorded it. It'll come out pretty soon, I promise. But in the coming weeks and whatnot. But yeah, that's why I didn't keep track with Kings and Generals individual parts of the Ottomans, though I know a lot of people wanted me to. I wanted to wait till the official long video, because I did actually used to watch the individual parts of Kings and Generals back when this channel was younger. But I kept getting comments about people like, oh, you have to watch long videos, because it has so much more battles, it has so much more information that his individual ones don't have. So, and then after a while, I was like, alright, I'll just only watch long videos then. So I'm letting you all know this, because once we do wrap this up, I'll basically not be keeping up with the Ottomans from Kings and Generals until the next season comes out. I think it'll probably be out before the end of this year, so we'll be back with the Ottomans again. In 2026. I don't doubt. But yeah, I just wanted to explain that, you know, for anyone new or not aware. Like, I like waiting just so we can have all the parts and all the extra information Kings and Generals likes adding. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to this. I just wanted to explain all that for anyone new or anyone who might stumble upon this series who isn't like a consistent like viewer, like subscriber of mine. So yeah, but before I do get started, I just want to say, if you guys want to help me out in any way, shape, or form, if you enjoy my content or my commentary or whatever, feel free to please like, comment, and subscribe. It would really help my small but humble channel grow, and I would really appreciate it, because I am trying to grow this channel. I'm hoping that 2026 be the year that, you know, I really get moving, upper. So yeah. Yeah, I've rambled long enough. Let's just get into it, right, guys? Let us watch the first part of the Ottoman Empire, Season 2, Mehmed Fights Everyone.
In 1453, the world changed forever. The walls of Constantinople, thought to be impenetrable for 1,000 years, crumbled before the cannons of Sultan Mehmed II, earning him the title the Conqueror. But the story didn't end at the fall of Byzantium. In the years that followed, Mehmed set his sights on expanding his empire across Europe and Asia, crushing kingdoms in the Balkans, and even launching ambitious campaigns into Italy. This is the story of Mehmed II after Constantinople, a relentless march of ambition, warfare, and empire building that reshaped the map of the 15th century world. Sit back and enjoy, and don't forget to like, comment, and share to grace our work with the favor of the algorithm.
Amen.
Do you know?
This young Mehmed constantly reads the deeds of Alexander the Great and desires to imitate his footsteps. Honestly, same. Except I'm not as cool, or successful, or
Upon
powerful.
conquering Constantinople after a climactic
As
siege,
Mehmed.
Sultan Mehmed II had established his realm as one of the foremost powers of its age. With the final fall of the Eastern Roman Empire came an opportunity to rebrand its former seat of power into a new Islamic capital city. However, while the Red Apple was slowly being transformed, further military operations by the Sultan were conducted in the local region against the last pockets of resistance to his rule. The final Byzantine holdouts of Silivri and Epipattos were captured after their local garrisons surrendered upon hearing of the fall of their capital, thus officially marking the end of 1400 years of Roman rule in Thrace. The two
Holy
eastern
crap.
Roman islands of Lemnos and Imbros had also managed to evade Ottoman occupation during the Great Siege. Regardless, with the shocking fall of Constantinople, the majority of the native Greek-speaking populace of the islands fled in horror to the safety of the Morea Peninsula. With the influential Genoese Getilusio family taking over the islands in their stead, a new peace was established with Mehmed, which saw the Italian noble houses becoming an official Ottoman tributary. Regardless, this peace was to be short, as in 1456, the Ottoman Sultan invaded the domains of the Getilusio in the northern Aegean in order to consolidate his control over the local region. The islands of Imbros, Samothraki, Lemnos, Tenedos and Thassos, and the mainland settlement of Ainos were all swiftly captured in a single military campaign.
Oh my goodness. Holy crap.
Only the Getilusio capital island of Lesbos, with its fortress town of Mytilene, was able to repel the Ottoman invasion. Likewise, the Genoese colony of Galata, which had proclaimed neutrality during the Great Siege, had surrendered to Ottoman authorities during the chaotic morning hours of May 29th. The residents of the settlement were guaranteed their lives and property by Zaganos Pasha, who himself had been proclaimed Grand Vizier during the aftermath of Halil Pasha's fall from power. In return for these guarantees, the colony's walls were razed down to the ground, and local Turkic officials confiscated all weaponry and ammunition in the town. With the last vestiges of resistance in the local region defeated, Mehmed II now turned to the reconstruction of the war-ravaged Constantinople, which he wished to turn into his new seat of power. Foremost, the city was cleaned of its rubble from the recent siege, while its land walls and main roads were repaired. Public buildings that had been desolate for centuries were also demolished, such as the Church of the Holy Apostles, the Hippodrome, and the Great Palace Complex. New housing and public buildings were constructed in the abandoned districts of the city, alongside many new mosques. The most famous of the new mosques would be the Fatih Mosque, built between 1463 and 1470, and the Eyüp Sultan Mosque, built in 1458, both constructed to compete with.
Okay. Abu Ayyub, a companion of Prophet Muhammad, died during the Arab sieges of Constantinople and was buried near the walls. Centuries later, Mehmed II rediscovered his tomb and built this mosque in his honor. Wow.
The likeness of the newly converted Hagia Sophia Mosque. The Yedikule fortress was also erected in 1458 at the former Byzantine Golden Gate, as a place for errant Ottoman dignitaries. However, by the late 16th century, it was turned into a prison for foreign envoys. On top of mosques, dozens of bathhouses, public kitchens, schools, and charitable institutions in the form of Vakif foundations were all constructed in the city.
Vakif was a charitable foundation where land, money, or property was permanently donated for public welfare. It funded mosques, schools, hospital, public baths, soup kitchens, and various other public services.
During the same period, a new political center in the form of an imperial palace, later dubbed the Old Palace, was also constructed on the former site of the Forum of Theodosius in 1458. It was here that Mehmed would house his royal household and imperial harem. However, wanting to outshine Roman palaces of old, another grander palace was constructed on the first hill of the city, named the Topkapi Palace. It was from this new residence that the Sultan's royal court of governmental officials, later known as the Sublime Porte, was installed alongside the new Enderun School. This latter school for aspiring bureaucrats would cement Mehmed's policy of centralizing the state under a new Devshirme class of elites, thus displacing the well-established Turkoman elites of Anatolia, like the Chandala family, who had produced 4 Grand Viziers to the House of Osman over the last century. In addition to buildings, Christian and Jewish families from all across Anatolia, Thessalonica and the Morea were settled in the Fener and Balat districts of the deserted capital. This was done to restore Constantinople's commercial output, as many of its former citizens had been driven into slavery after the Great Siege. This settlement of new peoples around the empire was accompanied by the construction of the Grand Bazaar complex, which was finished in 1460, thus creating a brand new economic center for the Ottoman capital. Aside from the reconstruction of Constantinople, the most significant domestic measure taken by Mehmed during this period was the consecration of a new ecumenical patriarch of Constantinople. For centuries, holders of this office were seen as the spiritual leaders of the greater Eastern Orthodox world. However, with the fall of the city, the office had been left vacant. In order to gain the loyalty of the Orthodox population of his realm and drive a further political wedge between the Orthodox and Catholic churches, the Ottoman Sultan appointed the strict anti-unionist theologian Gennadius Scholarius as Patriarch in 1454. This was followed up by the establishment of a new Jewish rabbinate and Armenian Patriarchate during the same period, which saw the unofficial creation of the millet system in Ottoman governance.
We have got to the point.
Since religion rather than ethnicity was seen as
Okay, this system was a unique governance model that granted religious communities autonomy. Each managed its own laws, education, and social affairs, as long as it recognized the Ottoman rule and paid taxes. All right, that's cool. I am pretty interested in seeing, like, definitely. I have a thing for battles. Even before I started this YouTube channel, I actually did really like learning about, like, battle tactics and, like, from famous battles like Cannae, and just kind of seeing how people played, not played, but, went to war and how they won wars and battles. And this channel, as you guys notice, I focus a lot on war, a lot of kings and generals and stuff, because it is my main interest. But I will say, though, as this channel has progressed, I do find myself, as I'm getting older, also more interested in, like, the bureaucracy and the ruling of how these great conquerors and military commanders just proceeded to start ruling and governing. And I really do think, like, Mehmed's a very interesting guy, definitely instantly getting on the move, going on to work, creating systems, and, allowing at least the existence of these religious communities, though, obviously there is a pragmatic sense to it, because he is ruling over a newly conquered group of people with much different religion, and you can't just make everyone convert. It's not completely feasible to do that, so, at least find a way to keep them around, but to your own benefit, to gain something out of it, obviously, probably to quell any potential unrest, and, to get things kind of rolling. So I do like seeing, when military leaders like Mehmed kind of, for a brief minute, settle down in what they're doing to try to make their empire run more effectively. And yeah, he seems to have a really good head on him, because like I said, I'm only really familiar with Mehmed for 2 things. Obviously, the taking of Constantinople, everyone knows that. and Vlad the Impaler, which I will go into more depth when we get to that. But yeah, everything else is a complete unknown to me. So this is really nice to see. And again, the Ottomans, what makes them very different from other empires I've seen, they had a really great string of emperors. Like, I've never seen a run this great. They had, like, most of their early emperor, or sultans, rather. My apologies, I'm using the wrong word. But, they had a great string of sultans. Like, from season 1, almost every sultan that popped up contributed to the growth and efficiency of the empire. And again, I can't remember one awful one, you know, from season 1. Like, even all the way to now, Mehmed, they just had this great run of sultans, each one contributing to the growth and the betterment of the empire. It's like, even like, the Romans, I don't think ever had a run this great, because, you know, things went pretty south even early on, like after Augustus and stuff, and then, you know, you had Nero and Caligula. Like, even the Romans, I feel like, never had a run of this many great, you know, leaders. So I think that's something that I took note last season, that the Ottomans had. Just like, perhaps maybe one of the best runs in terms of leaders ever. Their early leadership chain was kind of an amazing record.
The primordial marker of national identity within the Ottoman framework of society, prominent religious leaders were now seen as figureheads representing their respective communities throughout the empire. Often these religious leaders were heavily connected to the Sublime Porte through imperial appointments and approvals, which now gave the Sultan a new avenue of control over his non-Muslim minorities throughout the empire.
Smart.
In return for this top-down system of control, these religious communities were often permitted to form independent judicial courts to rule themselves, in which they could practice their local laws and collect their own taxes. All of Sultan Mehmed II's reconstruction efforts and political edicts would be fruitful. By the end of the century, Constantinople's population would soar to over 200,000 from a measly 50,000 in 1453. After many centuries of decline, it seemed like fate once again smiled on New Rome under the leadership of its new Islamic.
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Maybe that's just a testament to, like, some of the, well, to be fair, the Romans, more specifically the Byzantine Romans, well, the Romans in general, had pretty bad luck, I feel, especially in their Byzantine era. The amount of, like, of crap that the Byzantines went through is insane. I think they may have been they may have had some of the worst luck I've ever seen in an empire. So, and for a long time too, which I guess is a testament to just how they survived. But, my goodness, wow.
Caesar. By the spring of 1454, Mehmed II was feeling secure in his new capital city, and thus sent emissaries to despot Juraj Branković of Serbia, demanding he relinquish Golubac and Smederevo, or else risk a full invasion from his armies. Fearing another coalition brewing up in the Balkans after his conquest of Constantinople, the Sultan decided to go on the offensive in the region. Although the Serbian Despotate had stayed neutral in the military campaigns of 1453, its status as an impartial buffer state was questioned when Hungarian emissaries threatened war against the Sultan during the last weeks of the Great Siege. According to Ottoman chronicles, a scheming Juraj was also ready to join such a war with Buda's full backing. After 30 days of hearing no response from the Serbian ruler, the Sultan officially declared war and began mustering his armies in Sofia and Plovdiv for the campaign to come. Only a year after the fall of Constantinople, war had now come to Serbia.
Yeah, Serbia had a very interesting, like, arc last time we were covering the Ottomans, in terms of, you know, having to basically submit itself to, you know, Bayezid, and just to continue and basically serving as a vassal. And then once the Battle of Ankara was done, they just seize on the opportunity to become independent again. So yeah, Serbia now is having to be dealt with again. So yeah, very very interesting. Just the Balkans and just how the Ottomans came to basically rule the Balkans.
The summer of 1454, Mehmed invaded Serbia at the head of a 50,000-strong force, which was divided into two columns, one approaching Ostrovica and the other Smederevo. During the gruesome march, thousands of local peoples were carried off into slavery, while Ottoman Akinci cavalry pillaged the countryside of all loot and supplies. In the chaos, despot Juraj fled to Hungary in horror, while reinforcements under the leadership of John Hunyadi slowly began crossing the Danube.
It's good to see John Hunyadi back. A person. I know I always use the word character, and I don't mean that to like devalue actual historical people. I know they're real and all. It's just kind of like sometimes I view this like I'm watching a show, and I'm like I call people even in real life characters. Yeah, last time we saw John Hunyadi, he got his butt kicked. Because he had a really interesting... I took note of him really quick because he was the only, person in the anti-Ottoman camp who was, like, competent enough to actually gain victories over the Ottomans when no one else could. So that instantly kind of, like, raised his stock in the world, especially at this time as being probably the most formidable of the early Ottomans' enemies. But, we had 3 campaigns where Europe went against the Ottomans. The first 2, I'm pretty sure it was 3. The first 2, John Hunyadi wasn't in charge. He was, not the main guy. The third campaign, where he had complete control, but then I think it was Serbia he angered by some of his actions. It was a complete disaster. You guys might remember the specific names and whatnot. But that third campaign, I was really disappointed because I expected, now that John Hunyadi had basically all the power and was in charge without any question, I expected a kind of a lot, and then he just showed up and made every mistake in the book and then just left. He got his butt kicked, so I was a little disappointed then, but I was told in the comments he does come back and avenge himself. So I'm really happy. I do like seeing when people come get their clapbacks, as the kids say. So I guess this must be his comeback, which I'm hoping for, because I really do like John Hunyadi.
Nevertheless, these forces were to be too distant to help. After weeks of being pounded by cannons, Ostrovica fell to Ottoman forces, thus giving the Sultan access to the prosperous mining settlements of the local region. However, the siege on Smederevo was to be less successful, as its garrison put up fierce resistance. Feeling content with the many spoils he had acquired during the campaign, Mehmed discontinued the siege on the Serbian capital and left for Sofia. As the Ottoman army retreated back to friendly territory, a force of 32,000 under Firuz Bey was left behind to resist the Serbians until the next campaigning season. In spite of the heavy losses back during the summer, local Serbian resistance, in the form of guerrilla warfare, persisted into the fall under the general command of Nikola Skulbejic, culminating in a surprising victory against the Ottomans at the Battle of Leskovac. By October, John Hunyadi's forces had also converged against Firuz Bey at the town of Kruševac, inflicting a defeat on the Ottoman general and even capturing him during the chaotic retreat.
Oh wow.
After the battle, the revenge-seeking Serbian-Hungarian armies marched into Ottoman territory, looting Nis and Pirot and burning down Vidin. Nonetheless, an Ottoman counterattack near Novo Brdo caught a Serbian army led by Skabalic off guard, resulting in the destruction of the Christian army and the execution of its general. The military campaigns of 1454 had been a bloody stalemate for both Serbia and the Ottomans. Wanting to subdue the Serbian threat once and for all, Mehmed launched a new campaign into the region in 1455. Assembling his grand host in Edirne, the Sultan marched on Novo Brdo in spring. After 40 days of immense Ottoman bombardment, the town and its garrison surrendered, along with its famous gold and silver mines. The fall of Novo Brdo was followed by the fall of Pristina, Trepça, and Prizren throughout June and July. With the subjugation of southern Serbia complete, the Sultan decided to deal the death blow to Juraj Brankovic in the following year.
Dang, he is making quick work of Serbia. Yeesh.
Spending the winter of 1455 to 1456 assembling a grand host of 40 to 50,000, Mehmed prepared to march on northern Serbia and, most importantly, the Hungarian fortress city of Belgrade come summer. Seen as a gateway into the Kingdom of Hungary and Central Europe, Belgrade was the most fortified settlement in the Balkans. Being located on the confluence of the rivers Danube and Sevra, the city could only be accessed on land from the south, thus making it a highly formidable target for Mehmed. The Sultan's father, Murad II, had unsuccessfully tried besieging Belgrade back in 1440, but the city's great walls proved too much for his armies. Preparing for this immense challenge ahead, new cannons were cast in Adena, while a new Danube fleet of 60 vessels was constructed. By the summer of 1456, Mehmed's army was ready and began its march north to the fortress city, bypassing the many towns of northern Serbia. In the months before the Ottoman offensive, Hunyadi had armed Belgrade with 5,000 mercenaries from Poland and Germany, under the command of his brother-in-law Michael Zelegi and his eldest son Ladislaus. However, due to infighting within the Hungarian court between the supporters of Hunyadi and Ladislaus I.
Okay, so free from Frederick III's custody, Ladislaus reclaimed the Hungarian throne in 1452. Oh yeah, I remember John Hunyadi claimed a sort of regency or something from last season. So he was in charge, but not to the point where obviously now this has come up. His authority is challenged. So okay, Hunyadi resigned himself from being his regent in 1453, but still continued to rule most of the kingdom's royal castles and revenue. Alright.
Fifth, preparations for the siege to come were lacking, resulting in the late mobilization of the royal army. As the king fled to Vienna for safety, only the 10,000-strong army of Transylvania and a hastily assembled militia of 30,000 were sent as reinforcements to Belgrade. During this great confusion, the Ottoman army under Mehmed had entered northern Serbia by early June, defeating a Serbian force of 9,000 in a decisive battle near Smederevo. Bypassing the Serbian capital altogether, the first Turkish troops arrived below the walls of the great fortress city on July 4th. The siege of Belgrade had just begun.
Wix, one platform.
For over 10 days, the walls of Belgrade were relentlessly bombarded day and night by 100 Turkish cannons, many of which were present at Constantinople 3 years prior. As the walls of the fortress city were being tested, the Ottoman fleet of 60 vessels began blockading the Danube upstream of Belgrade, thus completing the city's full encirclement. Meanwhile,
yeah, that's what I wanted to comment. Definitely I could see why. We've covered sieges where, a town or fortress has the sea to its back, and always the big thing is being able to, if you don't have naval superiority, it can almost become fruitless because they can keep getting reinforced men and supplies through, any body of water that can reach it, or ships that can traverse it to get to it. So good to see that the Ottomans are putting the noose around its neck as tightly as they can.
while Turkish sappers had also started filling in the moat in front of the mighty fortifications, but were opposed by Hungarian cannon fire from up above. Nonetheless, with food and supplies quickly running out, and the local garrison of the city exhausted from constant bombardment, Belgrade seemed like it was on the brink of capitulation. In spite of the odds, reinforcements in the form of Hunyadi's 40,000-strong hastily assembled army and flotilla appeared from the west of the now ruined city on the 14th of July. In a bloody naval battle lasting over 5 hours, the Hungarians managed to break through the Ottoman blockade, sinking 3 Turkish galleys and their crews to the bottom of the Great River.
Oh wow.
Another 24 Turkish vessels were captured in the one-sided engagement. The following day, Hunyadi would enter the besieged city with much-needed reinforcements and supplies. In a
Dang. Good on you, Hunyadi. Showed up and instantly turned the tide, hey?
single move, the Ottomans were now on the back foot. With Hunyadi's militia of 30,000 troops now occupying the bank across the Sava River under the leadership of the Catholic priest John of Capistrano, Mehmed's army was now limited to solely harassing the southern land walls of Belgrade. The next 7 days saw multiple Ottoman assaults on the walls, but the city's rejuvenated local garrison repulsed all attempts. On the 21st of July, a final assault was ordered by the stubborn Sultan, which saw his elite janissaries breaching through the southern land walls and flooding into the city. However, a well-coordinated counter-assault from the inner citadel by Hunyadi himself would lead to a reversal of fortunes for the Turks. During the chaotic retreat, incoming cannon fire also killed the Beylerbey of Rumelia, Deir Kareja Pasha, in a surprising blow to the Ottoman army. To make matters even worse, a more serious problem for Mehmed than the failed assault arose. All the wagons and ropes used to transport his heavy artillery and munitions were also destroyed during an unexpected fire at night, thus rendering all of his deployed arms unmovable.
Oh dang, holy crap.
With his siege on Belgrade turning into a disaster, Mehmed was eager to face Hunyadi in a pitched battle, where he knew he could take out the Hungarian magnate once and for all. Ordering the abandonment of a number of tents on his left flank, and ordering his cavalry to feign retreat from the area, the Sultan wished to entice the defenders of Belgrade to lose their discipline and start looting his camp. The experienced Hunyadi understood this feign, and accordingly prohibited his troops from leaving the land walls. In spite of official orders, some in the garrison of the city began to leave their posts in small groups to loot the empty Ottoman camp, and some of their fellow brothers-in-arms soon joined them from the opposite bank of the Sava.
Gosh darn it.
Luring the Hungarians into his trap, Mehmed gave the orders to attack, which prompted Hunyadi and his forces on the walls to reluctantly join the grand melee down below.
Dang it, dude. These people, bro. Oh man, that's the importance of discipline in armies, though. Like, we've seen like how bad things can get when you don't have discipline. So now he has to give a battle, and what Mehmed wanted. All right, let's see how Hunyadi does.
Although the Hungarians had fallen into the Sultan's trap, the feigned Ottoman cavalry that had left earlier in the day was yet to arrive back on the battlefield. As a result of Turkish battle coordination being in a state of disarray, Hunyadi's heavy knights were able to charge into the Turkish infantry, thus capturing many cannons and standards in the process. Seeing that the battle had shifted against him, Mehmed joined the fight himself, killing a number of enemy soldiers, before later being struck in the thigh with an arrow and leaving the battlefield. As all seemed lost for the Ottoman Sultan, his feigned cavalry had returned to camp in the nick of time, and managed to stabilize the Hungarian charge until both sides retreated for the night. While the sounds of the wounded echoed below Belgrade, Mehmed and his fellow pashas decided to end the siege. The following 2 days saw the once great Turkish host burying their dead and loading up the wounded in makeshift wagons before retreating down south. Virtually the entire Ottoman camp was left abandoned for the bloodied Hungarians, who began looting in earnest after the Turkish withdrawal. With between 13,000 and 23,000 troops lost in only 3 weeks, the siege of Belgrade was the first military defeat of Mehmed II's reign.
Wow. Alright, good on you, John Hunyadi. You definitely did redeem himself after the last campaign against the Ottomans. Good on him. And wow, Mehmed's first L. Wow, that's interesting. I'm really looking forward to seeing more of his military career and what more he accomplishes. I will end the first part right here. This seems like the perfect place to end. And I will see you guys tomorrow when we look at part 2. Bye everyone.